Saturday, the 4th of October, 2025, and in this EGP Extraordinary General Podcast, we give our instant reaction to the overdue news that Steve Bruce and the Steve squad has finally been shown the door at Bloomfield Road after the latest debacle and performance and result, culminating with this afternoon's calamitous 2-0 home defeat against Wimbledon at Bloomfield Road. So this is a special. I'm John Asperall, and this is Seaside's podcast. What is it? Extra time show. Bruce given the boot. Good evening, everybody, on a Saturday evening at 8:30. Thanks ever so much, everybody, for joining us in the comments. You can see loads of people in here already on the panel. Tim, Mitch, the Ground Sweeper, and Nick. We've all forced ourselves to come out of our post-match half-drunken stupor. I've just powered down 2 paracetamols after 3 pints this afternoon. Tim's looking very red-faced. Tim, we're in the posh seats, I believe, today. How did that happen?
No, I wasn't in the posh seats.
How come you were? I thought you were reporting that the man of the match hadn't happened. I just assumed you were up there.
Somebody told me who was up there that it hadn't happened. So, to be fair, it wasn't announced. I didn't realise that at the time. It wasn't announced during the game, was it, either? So, probably because it was a bit embarrassing, which we'll go on to talk about. But no, you have disturbed my plan to have steak tonight, and instead I've had to shovel down a couple of fish cakes from the co-op at the local store. So
I'm sure this is why everyone's piled onto our stream this evening to discover what Tim's been having for his tea.
We're not having for his tea, more like, because of course the greater good, which is the podcast.
Certainly is. Mitch, Ground Sweeper, Nick, Mitch, come to you first. Did you expect this news to happen so fast?
Yes, I think so. After the game today, it was abject, wasn't it? I mean, we're talking. We don't want to spend too long on the game itself, but it was an abject performance. It was probably the worst I was racking my brain. I was talking to someone I know at the end of the game, and I was trying to remember when I've seen us play as badly, and I couldn't think. Certainly post boycott, there was a game right at the end of Terry McPhillips's season, the season we went back, where I think we lost 3-0 to someone like Northampton, and we just sort of looped these floaty, hopeless balls up towards some pretty useless big men. And, all through Appleton, McCarthy and all of that, I don't think I'd seen us just look as toothless and as clueless and as passionless against a very limited side. Wimbledon were not a good side. They were vaguely organised and they had a plan. And I think there was something about the nature of the defeat on top of the context of the season. And when you look at the data is horrific. We've got horrendous stats over the 10, 11 games we've played. So actually, no, I'm not that surprised, because it was unsustainable. And anybody who looks at it objectively can see that was unsustainable. It was an uninspired, unmotivated football team who looked completely and utterly lost. And at the end of the day, Sadler's put quite a lot of money into this, or certainly he hasn't, I know we've sold some players, but he certainly hasn't pocketed that money. He's put that money back into squad development. We've played big contracts, and the results are pitiful. So I wasn't surprised, no.
Everybody in the comments, thanks for joining us. A lot of people are on, I think they're all on the same page as us. We'll get the comments scrolling across the screen there so everyone can see what's being said. Andy, what was it? This one from Super Jazzer. Rumour has it he's lost the dressing room. Anyone know if this was true? For me today, that was a bunch of players that were not playing for the manager.
Yeah, and I'd like to be honest. I felt at Bradford we were. It was time, because when we went 1-0 down, we just had nothing in us at all. We're okay. Why it was 0-0 at the start and in the start of the first half, but I honestly felt after Bradford that was him gone, and all we've done since is just waste another 2 big home games, and we've wasted them really. So it had to happen. I think the players look. No one will convince me that Bruce isn't a nice fella. No one will convince me he's not a nice fella. But right, what he's done now, I think the players. I think the players. You're right. Right in the comments. The players are just packed in for him to a large degree. He's been brilliant. Let's be fair for some of them. Odd nuggets within the team. He's been brilliant. He was brilliant for Joseph, wasn't he? He was great for Fletcher last season. He's been good for some players, and they've really warmed to him and become better players, it seems. But the lack of attention to detail in how we approach games is astonishing at times. And you look, it's been a big bugbear in mine, little 1%ers, you might call them, that we're always 35 minutes. We're always out 35 minutes before, but every opposition we play to warm up, every opposition we play are out 40 minutes before. I say that because my little grandson wants to be in the ground early to watch the warm-ups. So I note these little things. I note since Keogh left, who used to drill our back four before games, now no one really does that. An odd little bit here and there, but nothing like Keogh used to really drill our back four or our back five or whatever it would be, right? He'd drill them, and that's not happening. So we've lost all our little 1%ers. So if we're losing our 1%ers from there, we're probably losing all the 1%ers in the training ground from corners, free kicks, everything else like that. They're not being worked on properly as well. And it shows in how our delivery is really. But anyway, I think the players see what we see.
Just picking up on that, Andy, and I think it was a point that was made about Bradford as well, that half-time, the opposition have a very structured programme for their substitutes to keep them warm, to keep them focused, to get them ready to come on the pitch. And I noticed that again today, that Wimbledon had a very structured session. Listen, it's not rocket science. It's stuff I used to do with my under-14s, under-15s onwards, little small-sided games. But it's all about touch, getting them sharp, getting them focused for the game. And our lot are just pinging aimless balls to each other, and the contrast actually at half time, because somebody mentioned it about Bradford, so I was specifically watching it, was very, very stark. I thought it was we're organised, we're focused, and Blackpool weren't. And I wouldn't let 14-year-olds do what we were doing at half time, which was just do what they want, when they want, how they want. Initially, I can't remember who it was, somebody came out and seemed to put some, I thought, Jesus, are we actually going to do something slightly different here? And then we didn't. But it was, there's this complete lack of professionalism. And I'm, as much as I like Steve Bruce, it's incredibly disappointing. And you hear rumours about what goes on at the training ground and who's there and who's doing it and what goes on. I can't say that we're unprofessional in training, but if your manager's allegedly not there, and then that's going on at half time, it suggests to you that things aren't happening the way that they should do.
Tim, every single team looks fitter than ours. Every single team we come across looks fitter than us. Everyone. We're not doing enough. The coaching team, and I'm led to believe that is the people that have gone, Bruce with the
Steves,
Clements and Agnew. Agnew's leading it up. I'm led to believe.
Here's a question.
Everything I'm being told is that there ain't enough, and we're not fit enough, and we're not drilled enough?
Well, here's a question to ask yourself: I think there's two extremes of Blackpool manager I can think of, and at one end of the spectrum you've got Neil Critchley, who attention to detail, control everything, and at the other end I'm going to put Steve McMahon, as in let's play some five-a-side, let's do a few passing drills, I'm off to the golf course, lads. But Bruce was like neither of those. If you're not going to drill them, then you've got to get them fluid. And you've got to do one of the two things. You've either got to get them fluid, you've got to get them comfortable in relation to each other. You've got to get them moving freely and imaginatively. And we had neither of those things. We were undrilled and incredibly unimaginative. And have we scored a goal this season that's not a set piece or a break? I can't think of one. We scored 2 with CJ on the break. We've scored, I think, 2 set pieces. I think we've had an own goal. And then there was the Ennis goals against Huddersfield, was it? The 3-2, which both came from us nabbing the ball so they were like breakaway transition goals. Have we scored a single goal this season where we've started and worked our way up the pitch and played football and scored a goal? I don't think we have. So we're bad at the back. We're unfit. We don't threaten the other team's goal. That has to. I can see loads of comments with people saying you have to blame the players, and to some extent, it's really it's not great when you turn up and the players don't look to be trying their hardest. But actually, that's ultimately the point of a football manager, is to motivate them to go and play that at least as hard as the other team, and ideally 1, 2, 3%, as you say, Gracie, better than the other team in all those little things, and we palpably haven't done it.
Nick, we were chatting on the patrons WhatsApp group about the Dwight Gale scripts that you reposted on there. I mean, a lot of us kind of poo-pooed what Dwight Gale had said before he became Blackpool manager. We just assumed it's like sour grapes from an ex-player who didn't like being pushed through the door. But my God, if you read that back now, a lot of it rings true from the Steve Bruce, particularly from the Steve Bruce era this season.
Yeah, it does. When he's talking about kind of the lack of detail and asking for tactics and didn't really do them. I think he said he felt like they were very much a week-to-week team. And we've seen it this season. And I think today, going back to your question originally to Mitch, were you surprised? I'm similar to Mitch, really. I wasn't, because I just think today was so... It's been poor most of the season, but that was next level today. We managed to take it up a level in terms of how poor we were. I think there was something like 3 formation changes in the first half. We've ended up playing the game with 3 different right backs. None of it improved at any point. It's almost just like literally picking balls out of a bag and saying, right, you play there. And there's been a theme all season of people playing out of position. And I think today was just, I hope this is going to work, rather than there's been a clear plan. I think there's been a lack of a clear plan all season. There's not been any point in those where you've left any of those games and thought, right, I can see what we're doing there. That something can come of this if we keep playing like that. It's been occasionally there's been a step forward, but it's been a step forward from such a low bar, and then we immediately take 2 steps back. And today was just a shambles. And I think it had reached a, when you're at a point where the steward's blocking fans from getting round to the West Stand, it's at a point where it's turned and it's not going to be coverable. So I don't dislike the guy. I'm not sat here celebrating, but it was the right decision. It was time to change.
Tim, did you notice that the banks and banks of stewards stopping people from not only leaving the West, not leaving the North to get to just to the West concourses, and it became 2 layers, and then within the West there was layers and layers to stop people more or less moving over, obviously to stop them getting to Steve Bruce. And you think, has that just been decided on a whim, or is this pre-planned? For me, it had to have been in the planning, which
they must have thought about it, mustn't they? Because I only actually noticed it properly as I was at Exeter at the end. And to be honest, ordinarily I'd have probably bailed about 5 or 10 minutes before the end because it was that bad. But I actually thought I should stay for this one because I don't want to boo the team. I didn't boo the team during the game, but I did think that something needed to be said at the end. And I think collectively the fan base had their say. Probably not as vociferous as it could have been, if I'm being honest. And I think that's probably a reflection of the fact that people don't dislike Steve Bruce. He's at the end of the day, he's an affable person, and he's difficult to dislike. Where I think with other managers, they've been easier to dislike. As soon as it came down, I thought that is there for a reason, and clearly that isn't spontaneous. That is on instruction, and that must have been thought before the game. And I found it's interesting, actually. I remember doing a podcast on Ball Street before the final against Exeter.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember you did.
I remember talking about whether I wanted our team to win the game. And I was actually spoke to Sean, who I watched the game with, and a few others, and saying, do I actually want us to get scab a draw? This is before they went 2-0 up. Scab a draw or even a win, because we're papering over the cracks. And I think sometimes you've got to lose a game for the better good. And I thought today was one of the days where we actually needed to lose the game, and we actually needed to then vocalise what our view was about what was going on. And I'm not particularly impressed with the players, if I'm being honest. I think the players have let Steve down. I don't think they played for him today. I think that's right. But I think as a professional footballer, you should play the best you can all the time. I don't think certain people did today. I suspect that Horsfall said something at half time, which is why he got hooked. I'm guessing.
There's something gone on there, hasn't there?
Yeah,
surely.
Listen, if he's gone in there and said this is fucking bullshit, we need to sort it out, then I respect him for that, and that's what a player should say. And if he's been hooked for saying that, then he goes up in my expectations, if I'm being honest. I suspect that's what's happened, because he comes across to me as a player who doesn't put up with rubbish, and he wears his heart on his sleeve. And if I was on that pitch and if I saw what was going on, I think I'd have a plate to say as well. I used to captain, nowhere near the level they're at. I used to captain the team I played for. And there's no way I'd put up with some of the bullshit that was going on that pitch, which was players were not playing. For me, they were not playing. Now, I don't like that. And I don't like to see it as a Blackpool fan. And listen, I'm not the only person saying this, because when those players came across at the end, there was people saying, you should be playing for the shirt. Forget Bruce, playing for the shirt. And they were right. They were right, but sometimes something has to happen to make change. And maybe certain players haven't played as well as they could have done because they want it to change. I don't know, but I want it to change, and I didn't want us to win that game at the end. And that's the first time since. I'll be honest, that playoff final, I was in two camps. I'm glad in the end we did win that playoff final, because we obviously got changed the following season and we weren't in the bottom division. But at the time, I had that conundrum, and I had the conundrum again today, and I don't like it. I fucking hate it. But we shouldn't be where we are. We've got a fantastic squad, in my view. We've got a good budget, and we've got appalling management.
But with the players, I think that was very well put, Tim, and I felt similar to you in terms of the being in two minds about what I actually wanted the outcome to be. But with the players, you have to look at what we did in that game. Was we started with the back four with Ollie Casey, who's been our best centre-back for quite a long time at right back. And then whether it was because Casey wasn't cutting it right back or, whatever, we changed to 3 at the back. So then we had no right back. And then we came out after half time, having taken off Horsfall that we paid. Well, we didn't pay a fee, but we paid a big bunch of wages for, and put Jordan Brown, who'd been the best midfielder in the previous 2 games, to right back all the time, whilst we had a right back on the bench. So yeah, you can look at the players, but for me, what you've got is you've got a manager who's not using the players in the squad to his fullest, to the fullest ability. He's sort of proving a point by not picking a player that he doesn't rate, moving everybody around the pitch in order to not pick that player, but putting that player on the bench anyway, pointlessly. And I think that is the definition of how to demoralize a squad. If you're going to have a team or a group that are together and that are a unit, they all have to feel like they can get on the pitch. They all have to feel like they're in it together. And if I was Fraser Horsfall or Andy Lyons this season, then I wouldn't feel any sense of togetherness or unity. And if I was Fraser Horsfall and Andy Lyons' mate, I wouldn't feel particularly good about the way they've been treated. So I think, it's simplistic to say, oh, the players have let him down. I think he's let some of those players down as well by having strange agendas where, Zach Ashworth wouldn't get a game for love nor money unless, as happened today, Coulson gets injured. It's odd. And I think that's part of the problem, is you've got a set of players who don't necessarily feel like if you give 100% and you do your best, then you'll get your chance. I think some of them feel like, well, I'm never going to get a chance here. Whether that's the same with Bloxham, I don't know.
Andy, you're on mute.
Just say something quickly. Being on the end of a lawsuit myself with our good friend Sakira there. Just if you're going to make any comments, it's highly passionate time for us all, right? If you're going to make any comments, like use the word allegedly, for God's sake. If you're going to make any personal comments about future managers or whatever, right? I've just seen a comment go through, and if you're gonna make any comments, right, then make sure you're using the word allegedly. Yeah, well, just want to make sure we understood that.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, where we are with things is from the player's point of view, right? If you're not 100% with the picture, then you're not going to give your best. That's a big difference between trying and busting your backside to get to everything and do whatever. It's a massive difference, right? And we're in a predicament now where a new manager needs to come in and they need to bust their right? They must do, right? But from my angle, that just comes down to what's being done day to day. Because of the players surely didn't believe in what was being done day to day. Surely. And the other thing is, I know we've just alluded to the fact that we've signed these players on big contracts and whatever. Has that upset the apple cart with the players that are not on such good money?
That's a great point, Andy. That's a great point.
Has that upset the apple cart? Because, I know we've not been traditionally big payers. So if we've suddenly turned the corner from being average payers to decent payers for this division, then has that upset the apple cart? And that's the other thing that's been worrying me about all the new players. Horsfall, for argument's sake, to me, is the one central defender we've got that can bring the ball out from the back. So he can help. He can stop these midfielders coming back between the centre halves and collecting the ball. So the midfield can affect the game a bit further up the pitch. But Horsfall's not playing. So we're left with two players who are just stoppers almost at the back. Right. So we haven't got, we've signed a player to bring the ball out, and we don't use him. So if you're only getting half a game every now and again, you're going to be frightened to do what you are good at doing, if you like. You're going to be frightened to do it. And he looks frightened to make a mistake. And we've got a team that's frightened to make a mistake. And we've got to get confidence into these players. We'll get confidence because we are coaching them better. And we'll have a better plan, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, the players will go out and be able to take risks and not feel as though the world's coming in when they make a mistake.
Nick, I know you've got to jump off in a minute, so your final thoughts just before you go.
Well, like I think it was the right decision. It's now a case of, who we're going to get. I think under Critchley, Mitch has said that, we were probably overcoached. I think under Steve Bruce, it looks like they've been undercoached. It's like Goldilocks with the porridge. We need to find someone who can get it just right. It'll be interesting to see what Sadler does. You'll see the usual names bandied about. Will he go for someone in work, or I suppose the easier option, somebody who's out of work? I've seen Ian Everett mentioned, obviously, out of work after his time at Bolton and played for the club. But we do seem to obsess with looking at people who seemingly have to have a connection with Blackpool. I wouldn't mind just a complete fresh start and somebody left of field. We will see, I suppose. It's going to be Dobby for a couple of games, isn't it? Certainly for the next one at Stockport, unless they've been doing stuff behind the scenes already and have approached someone, and it could happen early next week. We'll see. But also as well, I think we talk about Steve Bruce and the coaching staff. Do we need to look at? I know we've spent a lot of money, but who's bringing these players in? The recruitment policy as well. It might be it needs. Does that need an overhaul as well? I don't know, because I know we've been really unlucky with injuries, but still short in a couple of key positions as well. You're already probably looking to January, so it's going to be interesting to see who comes in. But I think for the here and now, it was the right thing, and I'm actually looking forward to going to Stockport, because, to be honest, I was thinking about seeing if I could get a refund on my ticket when I walked out today.
That's what we were talking about, Nick, weren't we, in the north today? I was like, can you actually get refunds on away tickets? We were just having a serious discussion.
I'll be there.
Oh, we're going now.
Yeah, listen, I'm going
without
to have to drop off. So I'll wish you all well, and I'll see you at Stockport if you're there. All right.
Right. Cheers, Nick. See you in a bit.
See you later.
So, the club statement that came out today, Blackpool Football Club would like to announce the departure of head coach Steve Bruce, assistant head coach Steve Agnew, first team coach Stephen Clement. So these Steves are all in the bin, but there's two left: Stephen Dobby and Steve Banks taking charge of first team matters until permanent appointment is confirmed. Talk Dobby to me.
Talk Dobby. Well, listen, Dobby had a great little cameo, didn't he, in the end of the championship season, where he seemed to understand what players and what fans wanted, as distinct from the rather dour football that we saw under McCarthy. Whether he's the long-term solution is another matter. We've talked about previously, I think, did he have the right experience? But we've had a manager with probably more experience than anybody else in the Football League. And it's been listen, last year was okay, and we can analyse why last year was okay and this year has been an unmitigated.
Although, Tim, just sorry to interrupt, but do you not remember that everyone said it was okay that season? Do you not remember all those draws we had and how long it took us to win a game? There was like a 4-month period at home without a win.
Away was all right, wasn't it? Away, we probably had one of the most successful seasons for away victories that we've ever had, but I think Mitch probably articulated better than I. But I think probably we still had players who had Critchley's structure, but were released from the shackles a little bit because he was very constrained, wasn't it? And Bruce probably released that a bit. But this year, where we've got a load of new players in, it's just a fucking shambles. And there's no other way of putting it. Listen, I don't mind saying it as it is. That today was an utter shambles. It was a shambles at Exeter.
3 right backs today, Tim. 3 right backs.
3 backs, and we had 2
with a right back on the bench.
One wing.
3 different right backs with a right back on the bench. 2 wingers at once. TJ and Bowler. It was just the biggest shit show I've probably ever seen as a Blackpool fan that today.
Yeah. I think it's up there. The only time I can ever think that we've been quite as unprofessional was under McDonald's era. But to be fair to Neil MacDonald, he had a bit of an excuse, didn't he? He was dealing with a shit show off the pitch.
Oh, he was on that. He was on to hiding to nothing. McDonald,
exactly.
Steve Bruce, the most backed manager I've ever known in my 40 years of supporting Blackpool. I'm sure the same for you guys. Yeah. The most backed Blackpool manager ever.
And he's got good players. There's no way. Listen, we had a bit of a poor deal with the number of injuries, and why we're getting those injuries is another discussion. But the reality is, he's an incredibly experienced manager who's got top 4 budget, and we are sat by luck just above the bottom position. We could have been bottom tonight, and that is completely on any level unacceptable. And but the manner of we had one shot in the second half, one shot from Bowler in the second half. That's all we had. But that's not just today. That's a pattern of every single game we've been involved in. Mitch has come out with some with all the stats about our XG and how poor it is, and actually how our strikers are actually booking the trend of the XG, and how we're the
0.09 our XG today. It was almost 0 at half time. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Well, you had to watch what was going on to realise that was true. And that is just like, listen, we're playing Wimbledon. I mean, I'm not dissing them because they're a great club. They've come from a very difficult position, but the Wimbledon, and they got promoted last year, and Stevenage are top. They're 5th. This division is nailed on for somebody who can show some consistency and some aptitude. And I feel sorry for Simon, because Simon, whether you can say, well, he's had money in and doesn't matter. He's put the cards down this year, and we've acquired players who are the best players from other clubs.
That's never happened to us, has it? Ever.
And he must be looking at this thinking, how the hell are we second bottom? How the hell are we second bottom after 11 games? It's bonkers. It's completely and you watch that out there, you could have put a load of 15 and 16-year-olds out there, and I think they've done a better job than our lot today. Maybe, listen, I'm just maybe under 18. An under 18 team would have been more organised against that lot than we were today. And you and I could organise a team better than that team was organised today. And that's the reality situation, because it was an absolute shit show. It was
beyond embarrassing, wasn't it?
It's off the scale. It's actually off the scale. And to the point where Blackpool fans are taking the piss out their own players. Now, I'm not saying, I can't say it's ever happened, but when people are actually laughing about the fact what we're doing and how Evans can't even beat the first man yet again with his free kicks, and how our free kick, there's that free kick that ended up with them with a one-on-one with the keeper.
That was just unreal.
What the hell is going on? And all the time, and every time there's a back past the keeper, we're like cheering it, and we're booing our own players if we don't back past the keeper, because they're taking the piss. Now,
it reminded me slightly of many, many years ago. My favourite thing that ever anybody shouted in the crowd ever was in about 1994. It might have been one of those games where, remember, was it York battered us 5-0 2 years in a row?
Which one, Mitch?
I can't remember which one it was.
Loads of 5-0s, weren't there, against York?
Yeah. So it was one of the York batterings, and I was in the South Paddock, and it was about 4-0, and we did something like that, So whoever was Paul Stoneman or somebody fired a free kick straight at them, and the crowd start going, "Ooh," and some bloke stands up in the South Paddock and just shouts, "Come on, chaps, must try harder, what?" and claps the hands, and the whole ground laughed. And as we took that free kick, that square ball, and then whatever happened, and they charged up, I ended up just standing up and just clapping my hands and going, "Outstanding!" outstanding football, Blackpool FC, because it was that fucking shit. But the point is, and I've made this point the other week, the point is, this side occasionally remind me of the Billy Eyre team after everybody any good had left, and he had only got like a bunch of kids and Dave Bamber on one leg, and like maybe Brian Griffiths was the best player, and they'd cost about 50p because Owen wouldn't give him any money, and they were, there was like 18-year-olds and 35-year-olds, and they're absolutely. And for this side that has been constructed in the way it has, and he's had the absolute pick of what it's like. This side is like the Allardyce team, but if they were absolutely shit, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Like, how has he managed to make us so bad? Me and Sean were going back and forth, going, you have to respect, on text, going, you have to respect the fact that he's come out and made us even worse. Like it's defied our expectations.
But people have talked, I mean, there's a lot of chat about Evans, right? And I think a lot of us think that Evans' legs have gone. Has his legs gone, or is he just unfit?
Bowler, Andy, he looks really unfit to me. He looks heavy, he looks leggy, and he's a 10th of the player we had. Bloxham, unfit. Evans, unfit. Bowler, unfit.
Bloxham, we've been talking about how unfit he is. But we're not fit. A new manager has got to come in and almost do a pre-season with his squad. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And all these injuries, are they happening because they're not fit?
Not fit, not conditioned.
No.
Conditioning prevents injuries. That's obviously not happening. Well, we're not seeing it. There's no fruits of that on display. Wilson gone down again.
I might be so wide of the mark. It's unbelievable. But, how many times in our podcast chat has it been mentioned last couple of weeks that Coulson looks like he's ready to blow up? He's never played this much football in his life, right? He looks. People are saying he looks ready to blow up. Mm. Oh, shock horror! He's blown up.
The reality is that unfit players pick up injuries more regularly than fit players because the stretching, they are going places that they wouldn't ordinarily go. And I wouldn't say for 1 minute it's the cause of all the injuries. If you look at some of the injuries we've suffered this year, I think they would have happened in any event. But most certainly, I think we're probably 6 or 7 players down now at the moment on what would be our starting 11, and that's pretty unprecedented. And I think it's difficult to argue, Andy, that part of that is down to lack of fitness. We don't look fit. I think I 100% agree with you. I think we're probably 50% of where we should be for a club of our stature and where we play in League One. I'm sure that every other team, if you actually did the old bleep test, would beat us.
Question with putting in the comments. It's appeared on a few people's feeds from people's comments rather. Where's it all gone wrong? Who's to blame? Who's to blame for all this?
Bruce, for me. I don't think you can lay this at Simon's door. I think Simon, at the end of the day, and we can discuss the reasons behind it, has decided this year that he wants to have a real go at getting out of this division. Unfortunately, the way we're going, it might be the wrong way out.
Oh yeah, he's going to achieve the goal, isn't he?
But that's not down to a bit facetious but that's not down to him. He has put the money on the table this year, and you said before, John, he's probably supported his manager this year to a degree that we've not seen, bearing in mind the level we're at, from any other owner that we can recall. I can only remember maybe as Owen was facing his prosecution, the Megson year, Megson was given a bit of money and didn't use it. Well, bought players, it just didn't work. Bought 3 players in for £250,000 each. And it didn't happen. but listen, we must be top 4 budget. We must be up there. We're not Luton, we're not Cardiff, we're not Bolton. But beyond that, I'm thinking we are probably the 4th biggest budget. And to be where we are at the moment is down to the manager and his assistants. I think he's brought his cronies in. I don't think any. We saw when Bruce went off with his unfortunate situation with his grandchild that Agnew can't manage a team. You know, it was a complete catastrophe, wasn't it, when he was in charge?
Oh Jesus, yeah. And
then we brought Clements in, and we've ended up Dobby being defensive coach. Why Dobby would be defensive coach when we've had a player who captained one of the best teams we've ever seen in English football as a defensive player? Why is the manager not coaching the defensive side and rather leaving it to goalkeeper? And that suggests a degree of separation between management and player that I don't want to see. I want a manager who's going to be involved on the coaching side, who doesn't necessarily have to do everything in training, but he should be there and he should be dealing with it. And if he's one of the best defenders this country's ever seen, and yet, based on what we understand, is our goalkeeping coach is designated responsibility for dealing with defensive coaching and set play coaching. Apparently, that is beyond bizarre.
It's do you remember the succession plans that we were told? Keogh and Dobby are there to learn to take the reins. Well, that's all gone to shit, hasn't it?
Let's not beat around the bush here. Keogh wanted that job. Keogh wanted the job. He was desperate to get the job. And when Bruce came in and put Agnew at his side, Keogh got pushed to the side. And they were told we were sold this succession planning, weren't we? We were sold it, right? Keogh goes and he brings Clements in, his mate, right? Which has been a complete farce because just getting more of the same. There's no challenge. Keogh's now gone to Barnsley as assistant. Like, I wouldn't even be upset if we got Keogh back. I just would not be upset if Keogh came back. Keogh lost faith in what was being done. He's just being used as a lackey, and like he wants to make his job. He wants to be a boss. We know that. We all know that. Right, so it wouldn't upset me. Me and Mitch were like distraught when he didn't get the job. I remember, and like we both loved what we were seeing. But you understood why we had to get Bruce in. But yeah, we were sold this dream of this succession planning. What a load of rubbish that ended up being, because it looks like Dobby's been pushed to the side as well. Because you never see Dobby and Bruce talking together. You saw Clements and Agnew doing it all. Agnew's not got a bloody clue. And like, I feel sorry for Bruce to a degree because, as I said before, I think he's a nice guy. But like, I'd take Keogh back tomorrow. I'm not over keen on Everett. Me having, obviously, I work in Bolton. I hear everything about Everett, and I know more than I should know. And I wouldn't want him back. I think it's too much trouble. It's too much trouble.
There's a lot of baggage by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's libelous to say baggage and ego, is it?
Yeah, and that's right. And there's too much crap about Everett going around in Bolton, and it's just not right. You don't hear all that if you're just a good football manager. I mean, you don't hear much baggage on Keogh, to be honest. But anyway, listen, I'm not saying he's the one, and I don't expect to be everyone agreeing with me or whatever. But what I'm saying is, if they did appoint him, I wouldn't be unhappy. Well, is there better people to bring in? Probably. I saw Gary O'Neill's name being mentioned. Like, if we could get him tomorrow, I'd snap your hand off.
I don't know if there is the one out there. I think that this is the problem. We're in mid-season. We can all name, a League One manager who is doing well, or Richie Wellens, or whoever. But I think we're gonna have a bit of a job to go out and poach somebody who's got that track record that we want to have, and then for me, I want us to really scour the market. I want people to come to us because, you know, being an English football manager is an incredible opportunity for coaches and managers just about everywhere in the world. English football pays the best wages, or some of the best wages in the world. It has a huge infrastructure of coaches, assistant managers, and so on. There's then all the managers and coaches in other countries that aren't as lucratively paid as English managers are. So if it's a random Norwegian bloke we've never heard of, if it's the assistant manager of Southampton or whoever, I want us to go and look at what's out there. And what I absolutely do not want us to do is appoint through contacts. I don't want us to go, oh, well, it's all right, the manager's gone, but it's all right because we know this guy who used to work at Sheffield Wednesday or Aston Villa, and he's quite good, we'll get him in. I want us to go and sift through 500 CVs, 1,000 CVs, and I want us to interview 25 people. I want us to listen to the visions of 25 people, because what we need more than anything now is, as an identity, we haven't got one. We have been a possession football team, we've been an attacking football team, we've been a defensive football team, we've been a long ball football team, then a possession football team again, then a long ball football team again. Then we have no sense of identity. And when we ask ourselves questions about recruitment, people are always slating the recruitment. But if I was working in recruitment for Blackpool FC, I'd be like, well, what am I recruiting for? Because it changes every 12 months, every 6 months. What we do keeps changing. And we need to go and try and find somebody who is as hungry as Critchley was first time round, because, you know, we've all slagged off Critchley on here for the way it ended up. But first time round, he was desperate. He was so hungry that he changed his entire philosophy mid-season, that he ripped up everything that he sort of came to do and then did a whole different thing, sort of reworked his old sort of tactical belief system, and he got a success. We need somebody who's as hungry as Critchley was first time, but who has a commitment to the kind of football that we want to play long term, which I would like to be attacking football, you know, good passing, good technical skills, but intense, you know, passionate football. And we need to find that person, because we have gone through one manager after the other, changing direction. So if it takes 3-4 weeks to find the manager, I don't care. I trust Dobby. He was good last time. Maybe it turns out to be Dobby. Maybe Keogh applies, he's the man. Maybe it's some bloke from Mexico that we've never heard of that's doing a brilliant job in the Mexican second division and fancies to chance his arm and come and blows us all away with his interview and his understanding of sports science and his revolutionary new tactics. I don't know. But if it's somebody that we just pluck out of the air on a whim, then that's not good enough.
And can I? Well done, Matt, because that's you spot on. And also, if the club came out tomorrow, here's a question for you: if the club came out tomorrow and said, with Bruce, Swansea Julian and Sheffield Dave have gone, then would we be unhappy?
Well, we need a clean slate.
Would anyone be unhappy? Yeah. Right, get rid of a lot of them. They're as much of the problem. You never hear from Swansea Julian anymore because his last interview was a car crash, and I don't think Sheffield Dave has particularly endeared himself to anyone, and he's full on Bruce man anyway, wasn't he? So get him out and all. Let's just have a clean sweep.
I've got to say, Andy, I agree with you. I think. And I've had a conversation with Julian before he went into his shell, and what the underlying reason behind that, you know, we can only speculate. But the reality of the situation is there's a DNA at Blackpool, isn't it? There's a DNA that a lot of us understand, and we seem to have gone massively away from that. We've gone away from everything that I think is important to Blackpool Football Club. The fan base from when we got the club back in 2019 has been incredibly supportive, and I think they've been marginalised. And I think we actually need we need a reset with the manager and the ownership. That I'm not saying that it involves Simon not being involved, but Simon needs to realise that we need to get back to having being a lot closer than we have been, because I don't, you never hear from Julian. You don't hear from the club. There's very little interaction between players, fans, and the ownership. I think we need to reset, and I think that starts with the manager. I remember when Holloway came in, how refreshing that was, and how important it was to what we ultimately achieved in that season. I don't want to go back with Holloway. I think that's a route that we shouldn't go down. But we need to think about how we interact, and Steve Bruce and the McCarthys and the Appletons. They're not what we need. We need somebody who, and Mitch sort of picked up on it before with Critchley, how hungry Critchley was first time round, and that's what we need. And whether it's an existing manager or whether it's a new manager, I think we need to think. We want somebody who's really going to really invest. I've forgotten who it was. It said now. I think was it? No, it's not Ferguson. Somebody said that they want a manager who opens the doors at 7:30 in the morning and locks them when they leave. We want somebody, and Critchley did that, to be fair, who lives and breathes the football club, lives and breathes it, and understands us and understands what Blackpool need from their football team. Now, we won't always succeed, and Critchley didn't always succeed, but he was probably the first time round the closest thing we've had to that. And I think that's what, that might be unachievable, but I think that's what we should be aiming for. And I don't think that necessarily involves rehiring old managers or anybody who's got a huge history of managing football clubs. I think it's about finding something new and finding something exciting, because this has been turgid so far this season. I think for me, that's the most worrying bit. And I was so excited about this season, and then I go down to Exeter. You can forgive Stevenage and say that was a blip. And then you go into Exeter and it was garbage, and it's been, bar 20 minutes against Huddersfield, it's been garbage every single game ever since. There's no way of calling it anything else. So we want a manager who's going to realise what we want, play football. We won't win every week. We don't want to win every week. We want to be entertained, and we want a fan base and a management and an ownership that are on the same level playing field. Working with the same goal. I don't think we're there at the moment, and we should be, because we're unique. We are 100% a unique football club, because nobody's done what we've done. And that should be harnessed, and the management should understand that. The ownership should understand that. And you'll get the best out of everybody. If we all work on the same page, you'll get the best out of everybody. And that's not been happening. Let's have the reset.
I know people talk about let's have a clear the decks, clean slate, no Blackpool connections. But there's one name that I think should be involved. Not just in the back room, staff and the coaching, that's Steve Thompson. Because if you hear him on the comms compared to idiots like Kisnall and the other people they have on there, he's so knowledgeable about the game, Steve Thompson. He's a superb coach. He's a Blackpool lad. And I think he's someone who should be there in the back room. I think that's the first call I'd be making is to Steve Thompson. I say, do you want to be involved in some capacity, Steve? Because he's a fantastic coach and he should be involved. But aside from that, I agree with pretty much everything you've said, and I don't think going back to the old managers is a route we should be going down. I think Everett should be just discarded straight away, and other names that are bandied around.
Well, it's the dynamic.
We want.
It's the dynamic of Critchley and Calderwood, or Parks and Grayson, or whatever, isn't it? It's getting someone like Tomo in, and then getting somebody who, whether they come from abroad and they're not as conditioned to English football, whether it's the first managerial job and they've stepped up from coaching, it's having somebody within the setup who has got plenty of experience, but is in the background, who isn't calling the shots, but somebody to go and bounce off, to somebody to go and work off. and perhaps even at times that little bit of creative friction of different ideas, somebody's people who've got their own minds as well in there to go and have a bit of a brains trust. The boot room in Liverpool was very much about the manager going in there, and then the boot room would sometimes say, no, I think you're doing it wrong, and they'd have an argument over a cup of tea. But I think what we've had in the last certainly 2 months is we've had a lot of yes boss, and then we had that problem under Critchley with Garrity and Brunskill, too much yes boss, and I, whether it's Tomo or whoever, I like the idea of having somebody with the experience in the background, and Tomo's as good a shout as any.
Right,
I'm not sure. I'm full on for Tomo personally, but I'm not sure we should go that way unless it's in a structured role.
Yeah,
that he does. Maybe he's been out the game a little bit longer. I mean, let's be fair. When he was with us, Holloway was absolutely off his cake, wasn't he? Holloway, he made some mad tactics and mad game plans and whatever. But what the players could do then is they could go to Tomo and they could use Tomo as their sounding board, and Tomo would then feed it in to Holloway slowly as he saw it fit, really. But he was brilliant for that group of players. But we have to understand how good that group of players was and how brilliant the team we had. And we had a lot of leaders within that group, and they ran themselves to a large degree. And this team isn't running itself.
And it needs, just like that comment from Steve South within the comments there, they need coaching. Tomo was a great coach on the training ground. You don't lose that. And that's what they need. This team, doesn't matter what the manager's like, they need coaching. And they need coaching now.
Some of these are young lads now, and they've been, let's take Jordan Brown for argument's sake. He's been at Orient with Wellens. Wellens is allegedly a good coach, right? But he has his resources taken off him year in, year out because they haven't got the money, right? But he's a good coach, allegedly. I don't know. This is what I'm told. And Jordan Brown has now come into us with less structured coaching, let's say, and he's just he'll just think it's backwards football, won't he? Really, he's not going to get the same vibe, is he? And let's be absolutely clear about this. Being a Blackpool fan should be exciting. That's the sort of club we are. Win, lose or draw, it can be exciting to be a Blackpool fan. And we're not being. And last season, you felt at times, even though we didn't qualify for the playoffs, it was exciting. Right, and Bruce sold us this thing that we were going to score loads of goals, but concede loads of goals, and we were okay with that. We were all right with it. We didn't that didn't scare us. We know we're not going to run away with the league, and we're not. That's not in our DNA, is it? We're going to be a bit of a roller coaster of a football club, but it's exciting. What's happened this season is the excitement's been taken out of it. Bar a 98th minute winner at home to Barnsley, right? And 2 bits of CJ where CJ did exactly what he normally does, shoot straight at the goalkeeper, and he managed to let 2 in, right? But he's, at least, getting CJ through on the break was exciting. So there's not many exciting moments in the season. And we're an exciting team. We need to be an exciting team. We need to be an exciting club. We need to be community-based. We need there to be constant communication from the club about community issues and how we're getting players out into the community and doing good things. And that's really important, right? But now nothing comes because we've got Swansea Julian sitting on his bloody throne. He says nothing to us. We've got Sheffield Dave hiding in the office, and we've got no structure on the pitch. So we're not exciting. We just become dull.
Who do we want? Who do we want? Well,
Yeah.
that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, let's go around the room. Tim, just before we do that, just a comment from Jane. The way things are going, surely things would have been sounded out already. You would have thought. You would have.
Listen, I actually nearly interjected on that, and I thought I'd save it for the next section. But 100%, you know, I know when Nixon put that thing out saying that there was a list being created and that Everett was on it, and then the club denied it and everybody poo-pooed it on ABFTT. So that's Nixon speaking bollocks again. Of course he's not speaking bollocks. Of course the club have a contingency plan. They would be mental if they didn't. But they're not hardly got because Amos, whatever his name is.
I always think of Amos Brearley.
Really, I couldn't remember.
Hey, Mr. Wilkes.
But no,
hey, Mr. Sadler.
Because Amos contacts the club and said, "Have you got a list in case you're going to sack Bruce?" They're not going to say yes, are they? So, the reality is that there will be a list and there will be the various names on it. You know, and some will come on the list and some will come off the list depending on things that change. You know, and I've seen mention of somebody saying, "Well, get Michael Duff in," but Michael Duff's just gone to Wickham. Now, Michael Duff might have been on the list, but he's not on the list anymore. If he was, he's not going to be on the list anymore because he's got a job, and so it will change and there'll be flux with it. But the reality is, the club will have various people who they will think might be a suitable fit. Now, whether we think they're a suitable fit is a completely different matter. And at the moment, the concern is that the selection process up to now has not been particularly fruitful. I mean, arguably, Carl had a better hit rate with his managers than Simon, and sometimes that's the luck of the draw, isn't it? You know, it's luck about who you pick, and it's the right person at the right time, the right place. This is an incredibly important appointment, and I don't think we should rush to it. I think we've got Dobby and Banks there, and maybe, you know, Steve Thompson is helping out on BBC Lancs. He must be free to get involved if they asked him.
Chuck Tomo in, give it Dobby, and see how it goes.
That I would say
I'd be happy with that.
Most certainly,
Tomo would take it short term. Tomo would take something short term.
To Christmas, let's say, just the risk is that you rush into something
with Dobby.
Right, Tim. Yeah.
And at the moment, the focus should be on just trying to stabilise the ship. And I think you know, I'm less convinced about Banks, but most certainly Dobby has already showed his credentials when he steps in before. And I think with if you got someone like Tomo in or Keith Southern, whoever it might be, I don't think we'll get Keogh back in the short term. Let's just stabilise the ship and let's just try and get a few results on the board. We're not going to go up this year. The focus needs to be on that we're not going down. And the risk is that you bring somebody else in who's got completely different attitudes and a completely different approach, and the squad's not right for what they want to do. All of a sudden, you're going to end up in
They then get frustrated. You'd get clashes, and then you're back to square one again.
Let's just
are we not just falling into our comfort zone of names that we know here? We're going, oh, it's all right. Let's get Tomo back because it's Tomo and he reminds us of the glory days, and let's get Dobbs because we like Dobbs and he reminds us of 2010 again. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with somebody coming into Sadler's office and going, hello, you don't know me. Nobody in English football knows me because I'm hidden in the shadows, and I'm going to now do my PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to absolutely, because I've sat for a week and I've worked out the strengths and weaknesses of your squad. I've looked at every bit of data on your players. I've devised a new formation. I've devised a training regime, and absolutely blowing them out the water. Look at Ipswich, right? They were shit for years. They were absolutely shit. They went through manager after manager. They had Mick McCarthy there, didn't they? They had Paul Cook went in there, didn't they? They kept going for, oh, this guy's doing well. And then they got Kieran McKenna, who nobody had ever heard of. Nobody had heard of Kieran McKenna apart from about 3 stats nerds. And Kieran McKenna absolutely blew them up the league.
So you knew about him then? So you
No,
knew
I
about
didn't
it.
know. No, Sean would have known about him. I didn't know about him. You know,
Sean's put you onto this, hasn't he?
I fear that
Oh, there you
we're sort of going, well, we need to stabilize. No, we need to fucking sort this because we have no identity. We haven't got a clue. And our identity, brilliant. I'm totally for give it Dobbs, give it Banks, get Tomo in, give him a 6-week deal. And if they do a fucking brilliant job, fantastic, let it roll. But at the same time, be looking constantly.
Listen, Mitch, I 100% agree with that. I wasn't suggesting that it was the permanent fix. I was saying, this is incredibly important appointment. Don't rush it and don't go for the usual bullshit.
I want to answer a comment here of because we're bottom of the league and it'd be a huge risk. We need to take a fucking risk at some point and stop making conservative decisions because we appointed McCarthy and he was the safety first expert. He'll get us out of this. He was absolutely shit. We should have kept Michael Appleton. He was awful. He took Appleton's team and made it worse. We kept, Bruce was a safety first appointment. It was terrible. Critchley coming back. Well, we know what we're getting here because he's been before. That was
Grayson.
We need to take it. Grayson, we'll get Grayson in because he's a safety first. But we need the only risk we've taken was Critchley first time round, and that was the only one that worked. We need to take risk. We don't get anywhere without risk.
It's a fair point. Well made.
The two that are being mentioned from Ireland, I saw Sean mention Stephen Robinson. And the other one is Damien Duff. It wasn't Michael Duff, I don't think. It's Damien Duff that they were mentioning from Shelbourne. And I think, Damien Duff's done well, eh? And so I wouldn't be... I heard some good things about him about a year or so ago. And that's before he took that job. So, maybe... that'd be, he's played football at top level, and if he's doing a good job with Shelbourne, then maybe that's earned his stripes, as Matt alluded to there. Get him in, interview him. Shelbourne are not going to stand in his way, are they? They might want to, but they're not going to stand in his way if he wants to interview, and then he's got the chance to impress, right? But we have to be careful here that we're getting the right thing that's going to get us down, make it a project. We all buy into it and we all go forward together, us, the players and the manager, and we need to become all at one again. Absolutely.
The atmosphere today, the atmosphere, you're right, Andy. Tim, the atmosphere in the north today, I think you've picked up on this as well. I did at the same time. The amount of people that were sat down during the middle of the game was frightening, and they were shooting the way. They're shooting the way we're at in the north, shooting towards the north, and half the stand was sat down. That told me everything I need to know about how much of the atmosphere has gone from the stadium, and that's a big thing. And another thing. Do we all believe the season's over now in regards to hitting the playoffs? I mean, it's a word. Lots of people around me were saying that. I mean, how fucking depressing is that on the 4th of October?
It's obviously not, is it, John? It's obviously not over.
No, but yeah.
But
the whole
we need to get going. But for it not to be over, we need to get going pretty damn sharpish, to be honest. Right? There's a lot of points to play for, let's be fair. But we need to get our ass into gear. He's not going to help the fact that probably 4 or 5 of our better players are out injured.
This is my point.
It's not going to help.
Orient had a run last year, didn't they, where they went from a very low position in the league. I'm not quite sure it's as low as ours, to almost to get to playoff final and almost getting promoted. But we've got all our best players are injured. A lot of our best players are injured, I should say. So we've got this period over the next probably 6 to 8 weeks where a large part of our squad isn't going to be available to us. We've got the uncertainty of interim and permanent new management, which Orient didn't have. And when we've done it in previous years, gone from very low position to high position, there's been an element of continuity. So I think that the realist, listen, if you say, is the season over? Of course it isn't. But if you're being a realistic assessment of where we're at, we're going to say, bearing in mind all the challenges we've got, both with injuries and with interim management and permanent management, we ain't going up.
There's arguably our 4 best players: Honeyman, Banks, Ennis, Imre, all out.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing quickly? Can the knobber get out the chat that keeps trying to get a rise from us? Every comment talking about the knobbers within these statements. So get out the chat. Get the knobber out the chat. End of.
Knobs
Worry
out.
about your own club.
Knobs out.
I think is the season over? Well, probably in terms of promotion, yeah. But
Yeah,
like
in terms of that, yeah.
But end of the day, between us, we've probably got about 150 years of watching Blackpool, and most seasons aren't promotion seasons. There's plenty to play for. There's winning games of football, watching skillful players do things, good goals, last minute winners, and so on and so forth. The season's not over. I think you have to believe that, you always have to believe until it's mathematically impossible that it's possible to do it. And I'm sure at Stockport, with Dobbs in the dugout, there'll be an optimism and there'll be a sense of let's get behind it. And I think that if people can see that we're trying to do things the right way, that we're trying to play an entertaining way, if we're trying to get on the front foot, if we're trying to be brave, if we're trying to be sometimes maybe a bit kamikaze, because we like Blackpool teams that play like that. If we win at Stockport 4-3, everybody will be ecstatic. If we play, we'll score one more goal than you football, we'll be delighted. And then is the season over if we play like that? If we finish 11th, but we actually play some really, really, really good football, and some bowler hits form again and starts to look like the player he was, and Dale Taylor comes good and scores 15 between now and the end of the season. Is that over? No, it's not. That'll give us a hell of a lot of optimism for the next season, because it'll feel like, yeah, we're doing something here. So the season, it's going to be a bloody tall order to get promotion. It's not impossible, but the season isn't over, because we have to start doing something, because we've almost got to zero, in the sense that we've got no discernible tactics, no discernible qualities, no discernible successes all season. So there's everything to play for. There's a great opportunity for somebody to come in and start doing something with us that we can get behind and believe in. So the season's absolutely not over. I think it's really, really important. It's shit that it might be another building period after 2 previous years of building periods, but that is what it is. And for whoever comes in, it's massive.
Right, on that note, I think we'll call it an evening. I think we've done this to death, unless anyone's got any more points to add. Before we go, scratch of the chin, Tim.
No,
I just felt like we left.
If you had to take one,
I think
if you had to take one, who would it be?
Yeah,
If there was one name you could say now that you'd be happy with, who would it be? I'm not saying this is everyone. You could have 35, 40 different opinions in the thing. This is just a personal choice.
Do you want me start?
Yeah, go on.
I'll go for David Artell at Grimsby.
It's a decent shout. He won 7-1 the other day, didn't he?
That's what I'd go for.
Mitch?
I'm going to go for Raul Estevez, who I've just made up, who's
You did this last time.
currently managing in the Argentinian second division. That's for Sean. Dedication to Sean there. But he plays a revolutionary 3-1-6 formation with the 6 up front. No, I take the piss a bit with that, but I would quite like to be completely and utterly flummoxed by who we get, and not to have a clue what to expect when I walk into the ground. That's what I'd quite like.
Grice Reaper?
I wouldn't say I'd be hugely. I've said it before tonight. I wouldn't be hugely disappointed if he turned around and said Keogh's coming back from Barnsley as manager. I wouldn't be hugely disappointed. I'm not telling you that's who who they'll go after or whatever. I wouldn't be. And that's personal thing. Me and Matt together. When his Mexican man falls through, we go to Barnsley. We get Keogh.
And we don't get a work permit. We go and get Richard Keogh's Tangerine Chaos.
Can Gary Medine his badges?
Well, I don't know if Gary Medine's just stuck in a Northeast Social Club.
He's probably done his doorman badge. He's probably done his security doorman badges, hasn't he?
He comes back in as vibesman.
So I'm going Keogh, but I've got a knot, and I don't want Everett. Do not want Everett.
No, I don't think we should go there. Well, I've just obtained a copy of the Managertron 2000 software program that Sam Sadler used to get the Neil Critchley Mark II in, and I've hacked into it, and I've fed in the data, put in the opinions, and you know who's been spat out?
It's not 3.0, is it? It's not Neil.
It's the only name that's coming out.
Oh no!
Aided and abetted by Boswell brothers. Just for the lols, let's get the Boswells back. And seriously, I'd, as I've said before, I'd get Tomo in. I'd just give Dobby, give him a month. Yeah. See how it goes. See if he can steady the ships. He knows the players. Tomo knows this level of football inside out. He's got the contacts. Fantastic coach. Blackpool lad. Knows the club. Get him in. Let that roll. And if that doesn't work out, I said Richie Wellens before Bruce was appointed. I think he's a great manager at this level. And I think you wouldn't do far wrong getting Richie Wellens. Right. What time we're on? Hour and 15. We said, we'll just do this for 40 minutes, but I think it needed doing, didn't it? Thanks ever so much.
Cathartic, as you've said in the past.
Yeah, cathartic. Yeah. Over 1,000 viewers live, and that we've blown our live viewing record out of the water there. So great to see everyone on here. Let's finish on a positive note. Anyway, Bruce is gone. The only way is up, unless we drop to 24th in the table, but that's hopefully not going to happen. No pod in the week, so I think we've done it now, and we'll be coming back to you after the Stockport game. We'll be going there in a lot of positivity and hope. So all that remains to be said is thanks for watching, thanks for downloading, like and subscribe on YouTube. And up the pool, come on, Dobbs.
Come on, Dobbs.
Been involved in two. Can he make three? Not on this occasion. Well taken by Walsh. Davis is on the far side. Ainscough coming square. That's the ball. That's a good try. What a goal! Oh!